You can barely speak in complete sentences. Yeah, because I replied to you once in an incomplete sentence. Charlie was a master at his craft and he was engaging the public in healthy discourse. I dispute that point. He was not engaged in healthy discourse. What he was engaged in is unhealthy discourse. This man did not elevate the national discourse in any way or make any of it more healthy. You say that he traveled the country, said he didn't hide at any point, so you could have stood in front of him with a mic and stated your case about why you were better at debating or your points are better, but instead you make a video where you won't even show your face, where you incoherently ramble and fail to make a single valid point. I don't think you're being fair. I think you just basically say that my valid points aren't valid, but they are, so you can fuck off, bro. And then you say Charlie was an excellent husband. I don't care about any of that. Plenty of terrible people have, a wife and family. Hitler had a wife and family. Doesn't count for shit. So, your argument fails. I don't care that Charlie didn't kill a bunch of people. He certainly advocated for it. He was calling for public executions. He was saying it. He was shitting all over MLK's legacy and all that. Most of the shit he was saying was hateful and unhealthy. Healthy discourse, my fucking Northwesterner ass. Furthermore, in your pathetic attempt at launching a critique at me, I really see nothing that was actually a valid point being made here at all, because at the end of the day, as I stated into the record in my former video, this is a delusional misperception of the reality. It is not actually true. He did not actually engage the public in a healthy debate. In fact, the fact of the matter is that I would have been a fool to stand in front of him with a mic and stated my case for why I'm better at debating, or my points were better, or even showing my face, because if I show my face, then that's what people comment on. They don't see. I have enough experience at this whole YouTube game to know that if I show you the background of my room, that's what you're going to hyperfixate on. That's what you focus on, and that's what most of the comments will be about. So it's better to just not show it at all. You say that I incoherently ramble on and fail to make a single valid point, but I think that you're failing to make a valid point here because you're misframing and showing us all how psychotic your perception of reality is, because you perceive him to be engaging in healthy discourse. I dispute that notion altogether. The reason why I would have been a fool to stand in front of him with the mic and stated my case on any of this would have been simply because there is nothing about the way that Charlie Kirk did debates that resembled at all, a healthy debate structure. There, as I've stated, and I will continue to state this over and over and over again about things, there was no healthy debate structure going on there. There was no healthy discourse structure going on there. To be healthy in nature, there would have to be fact checkers able to refute, it when the people that were on the stage made a false claim that had nothing to do with reality, and would be able to call out and show people why the structure of their logic was faulty and fallacious, and would be able to call out cognitive biases. None of those things and factors that would hold a man like him in check were present on the debates that he did. He knew that he could do things like engage in gish gallops and all these other debate tactics that are studied by rationalists all over the place. He did this kind of thing all the time. He did the gish galloping attacks. He did the logic false cause attacks. He failed to understand that correlation does not imply causation. All these factoids that he cited about feminism, which by the way all turned out to be false. But then he tried to attribute it all to feminism and make it feminism's fault, which was just like correlation does not imply causation. Basically, you're wrong. He was not a master of his craft. He was not engaging in healthy discourse, because healthy discourse would look nothing like what Charlie Kirk was doing. Healthy discourse would have been something like the point system that I proposed, where there would be a whole team of fact checkers so that they could quickly check facts, and you'd lose points if you made a false claim. You'd lose points if you used logical fallacies, and you'd lose points if you argued from a place of cognitive bias. None of those things were present in the debates that he did. Only a fool would have approached and tried to debate him, given that the obvious structure of any debate with him would be far too informal and allow for far too much unethical behavior. And I have wisdom. I am way too wise for this kind of crap. So I'm not gonna go up there and say I'm better at debating than you, because I know that Charlie Kirk has deliberately structured everything so that we don't have to abide by any rules that would make the debate healthy or ethical in any way. And in fact, I know that his whole tactic is not as a search for truth or anything where both people in the debate come away stronger, or they come away from a position of having, been curious about the other person's point. No, he debated in a fashion where he tried to destroy anybody that went up against him and humiliate them. There was nothing remotely ethical or healthy about the way that Charlie Kirk debated. Another thing that I would point out, which was such an obvious fault in everything that he did, was, he went on this prove me wrong tour, but that whole phrase is completely out of turn in of itself, because it's not on us that doubt Charlie Kirk's points to prove him wrong. It's on Charlie Kirk to prove he's right, So this whole prove me wrong thing is a shifting of the burden of proof fallacy. So right out the gate, there's one thing that he does that isn't ethical. In a formal academic debate inside the halls of academia, and not outside the grounds and just on the college campus, but inside the building, in the classrooms, as part of formal academic exercises where you had to abide by ethical rules inside the debate clubs, this man would have gone nowhere. There's a reason why he's outside the building and confined to that space to debate these college kids. And these college kids would have found out very quickly, especially if they were part of the debate clubs at the college, oh shit, Charlie doesn't have to abide by any sort of ethical standards in these debates. So he can use logical fallacies, he can make a bunch of false claims, he can do gish galloping attacks, he can do anything that he can possibly do to humiliate his opponent in any fashion. So, only a fool. And I am not saying this because I lack the confidence to do this, or I lack the confidence to engage in these unstructured debates. I say this because there's nothing healthy about that kind of thing, allowing that kind of thing. The kind of shit that Charlie Kirk was able to get away with at these debates should not be tolerated in the first place. And yet, we have a society that seems to think that these kinds of unstructured debates count for anything. I don't feel that way. These debates have no rules, they have no structure, that you don't get penalized for unethical behavior, you don't get penalized for ad hominem attacks, you don't get penalized for, faulty causes, you don't get penalized for implying that correlation equals causation, you don't get there's none of these like actual rules that would apply any sort of like an umpire in an actual sports game, to deduct points, for the unethical behavior that is openly tolerated. And this is what we see in our college campuses. This is the unhealthy behavior that we see on display in our college campuses. And discourse like this does not engage the country in healthy discourse. It only degrades the health of discourse and makes it worse. So any perception to the contrary is fucking pure psychotic filth. If this is how you perceive things, please seek counseling. You need help. You do not perceive reality the way it is. Your perspective is warped.